Today, in my discussion series, I have selected topic on economic growth and economic development. Commonly, we confused about the economic growth and economic development. So, with the help of this video, I hope you will understand the difference between economic growth and economic development. This topic is considered to be very important because any country's economic condition can usually be measured by looking at this country's economic growth and economic development. So here in this selection we are defining and explaining economic growth and economic development step by step. A country's economic growth is usually indicated by an increase in that country's gross domestic product or GDP. Generally speaking, gross domestic product or GDP is an economic model that reflects the total value of a country's output. In other words, a country's GDP or gross domestic product is the total monetary value of the goods and services of all kinds produced by that country over a specific period of time. After understanding economic growth, let us discuss about economic development. Here, a country's economic development is usually indicated by not only an increase in the total volume or quantity of goods and services, but also it is indeed an increase in the quality of life and the qualities and standards of the goods and services produced by the country. Here, the quality and standard of life is measured with the help of Human Development Index or HDI index, which includes the life expectancy ratio, literacy rate, per capita income or PCI, poverty rates, infant mortality rate, and other indicators. So, HDI index is an economic model that considers intrinsic personal factors. Of course, these are not considered in the economic growth. To understand economic growth and economic development clearly, let us consider measurement part of economic growth and economic development in our discussion. Here, economic growth measures an increase in the real GDP or real output, whereas the GDP or gross domestic product is a measure of national income or the national output of the country and also measure of national expenditure. Of course, it basically measures the total volume of goods and services produced by the country in an economy. On the other hand, measurement of economic development will look at life expectancy, literacy rate or educational standard or the quality of education, quality and availabilities of the housing facilities or sheltering, levels of environmental standard and many more indicators. So, it basically measures the total volume of goods and services, that is the quantity of the commodities and the services level along with the qualities of the produced goods and services in an economy by the country. In measuring economic development with the help of Human Development Index HDI, to assess the quality of life of human being, the life expectancy is one of the important indicator of measuring the economic development of the country. Here, life expectancy is defined as the age which a person is expected to live in this country or the remaining number of years a person is expected to live. Very simply, we may understand the survivability rate of a person in the country. Human Development Index goes up if the rate of survivability of the people increases and vice versa. Accordingly, the development of the country is also measured. Moreover, Life expectancy is depends on many other indicators like availability of healthcare facilities in the country. And those healthcare facilities are also dependent on or counted by the number of doctors and other healthcare units per thousand population and other facilities to the people of the country, which is very strong indicator of HDI index and the development of a country. In spite of that, the healthy food is also another measures of the quality of life. That is, the life expectancy is also dependent on the healthy and hygienic foods. More healthy and hygienic foods to the people increases quality of life and leads the country towards the economic development. If this indicator is poor, the country is considered as one of the characteristics of the underdevelopment. Well sheltered and the living condition of the people in the country is also another measure of human development. So the quality of life and the longevity is also very much dependent on the living conditions of the people. Another point considered for human development is literacy rate or the level of educational standard of the citizens of the country. So total number of literate persons in a given age group expressed as a percentage of the total population in those age groups of the country, whether it is high or low, is considered for the development of the country. Higher the rate, higher would be the rating in the index of the development and vice versa. Here, quality and availability of housing is also another important development index in measuring of the human development. The housing quality, here we mean the physical quality of an individual's home as well as the other qualities of the social and physical environment in which the home is located. Other than that, it includes the air quality, home safety, space for individual or accommodations, sanitations, etc. are considered for development. Measurement of economic development is also considered the levels of environmental standard. We know that the environmental standard or quality of environment is very vital and a global issue. That's why the country of the world which have less environmental hazardous and contributing eco-friendly or environmental friendly, less pollution sustainable economy are positioning to achieve quality of life and human development. Another economic factor of measuring economic development will look at the real income per head of the GDP per capita. So here, real income per head GDP per capita is a measurement of the total economic output of a country divided by the number of the people and adjusted for the inflation. It is used to compare the standard of living between the countries and over time. So the country's real income or the volume of GDP per capita with the help of the total population is considered, and this per capita income PCI also one of the measurement of economic development of the country. To understand a country, whether it is developed or underdeveloped, we also look at the poverty rate of that country. Poverty rate is the ratio of the number of people in a given age group whose income falls below the poverty line. Higher the rate, the country is characterized by underdevelopment. So, in brief, by economic development, we understand the all-round development and the quality improving in all respects, along with the increase in the size and the volume and qualitative change of goods and services produced by the country. Now, in this section, we are discussing the basic comparisons between economic growth and economic development. That is, the difference between the economic growth and economic development to understand the concept very clearly. Conceptually, economic growth is a narrower concept than economic development. On the other hand, economic development is a broader concept than economic growth because it includes both quality and quantity of all sectors. Economic growth is increase in the monetary growth of a nation in a particular period and for certain period. On the other hand, economic development refers to the overall development of the quality of life in a nation, which includes economic growth in continuous process. The scope of economic growth is a unidimensional approach which deals with the economic growth of the nation only. On the other hand, economic development is a multi-dimensional approach that looks into the income as well as the quality of life of the nation. And if we consider the terms of both the economic growth and economic development, we have seen that economic growth is short-term process, but economic development requires long-term or continuous process. Another basic difference in case of measurement is that the economic growth measures quantitatively and economic development measures both in quantitative and qualitative. And in case of applicability, economic growth is concerned with the developed economies, and qualitative and quantitative progress is applicable in case of underdeveloped and developing economies. Economic growth supports an automatic process that may or may not require intervention from the government. On the other hand, economic development requires intervention from the government agencies or as well as the developmental policies of the government or other agencies. Another point we have found here is that expected changes of the economic growth is a quantitative changes, whereas most of the changes required for the economic development is quantitative and qualitative requirement. Economic growths are measured through GDP and GNP, but on the other hand, economic development is measured through Human Development Index, per capita income, industrial development, infrastructural development, etc. Economic growth is related to developed countries of the world, whereas economic development is related to underdeveloped and developing countries of the world. Growth brings a quantitative impact on the economy, whereas increase in the indicators like per capita income and GDP, but development brings qualitative and quantitative impact on the economy, on life expectancy, infant mortality, literacy rate, poverty rates, etc. After examining the economic growth and economic development in details, here we may conclude that economic growth is a subset of economic development, and economic development is a broader concept than that of the economic growth. However, economic growth uses only specific indicators to measure the growth in an economy like GDP and GNP, but an economic development uses various indicators to measure the development of the economy as a whole. Lastly, but not the least, we understand that economic growth is an essential conditions for the economy, but it is not the only conditions for economic development. So, growth is not development, and development includes economic growth. In our discussions, I hope you have learned about meaning and concepts of economic growth, basic concepts of economic development, some indicators of Human Development Index, and difference between economic growth and economic development. Thank you for watching.